Hi everybody, it's Yuki once again, giving you guys a little bit of an explainer video on how to watch our upcoming TTRPG game, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Protectors of Kindness. And I will also tell you that I am also a player character and the Dungeon Master for this particular game. I will tell you our two other players are also familiar, you are also familiar with if you watch this channel. Okay, so let's go over what to look out for when you are watching the series, especially if you're brand new to TTRPG games or want to check out some other systems like Nimble, which I'll talk about not only in the series, but I'll talk about in this little explainer. For those of you who are brand new to TTRPG games, you notice that there's a lot of dice being rolled. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of math. There's a lot of papers. That's the usual. That's the normal, because the dungeon master is responsible for the story. The players are responsible for the character and the dice and all that good stuff. It's the dungeon master who does a lot more work than the players do. The players does roll dice, do some math, and you get and do some strategy as well. Let's talk about the three pillars of a TTRPG game, particularly speaking for those of you who play D&D. The three pillars are exploration, social, and combat. Talk about exploration first. Exploration very basic. You explore things. You talk about, hey, let's take a look at what's underneath the bushes, or let's light up the cauldrons, kind of like that. As you can see here, this is from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, and you have the Wigglytuff Guild. Okay, I'm gonna try not to spoil too much, but this is from the game. The first episode is actually based on the game. After that, it becomes something else. I can't spoil too much. But you see this character is trying to join a guild, but he's going to be denied because he needs two more players, two more partners, I should say, not like a trio. So he has to find a said partner. So eventually this character is going to explore a certain area. And that area becomes the beach, as you can see here. The character, would start on the right side of the map and go straight to the left, finding a partner along the way. This partner is this Riolu. This Riolu is played by me. Also has the same name as my do. So there's your exploration. He, this other character, traveled to the beach to try to find a partner. He did. But was it easy? Well, kind of easy, yeah, but is it right away? No. You'll find out that there's going to be a lot of more checks involved, and this is what you call ability checking along with exploration. Ability checks is going to be your first vocabulary word. When I call for ability check, you're going to see a dice roll, and the dice roll is usually a d20. Presented here, as we can see here, for example, we got a 17. Normally, high rolls succeed. For the most part, high roll will succeed. Okay? Now, keep in mind that just because, oh, you got a high roll, does not mean you automatically succeed later on. It just so happens that we're in the beginning of the story, and the difficulty class or DC is small. It's big, small number. So if you beat that small number, you succeed in said check. But keep in mind later on, when the dungeons get bigger and when the creatures get larger, or in this case, Pokemon, or when the checks get harder, that difficulty class DC number is going to be higher. Oh, by the way, the DC number is going to be hidden by the DM. I cannot show you what it is. I cannot explain what the number is unless I decide to do so. Unless it's like a very big check that you need to do. But for the most part, I keep those hidden. I have to keep those hidden. So with a 17, this character might say, "Hey, do you want to be my partner?" or something like that. And the number 17 would say yes. But again, it could be anything. That's the checking part. That's ability checking and all that good stuff. You add your modifier based on the check you're about to do. Now, the second pillar, the first pillar, and the second pillar were actually explored there. Social game and the exploration game. But we're missing one big pillar, and that's combat. I take you now to our second map you're gonna see in the series in the first part, in the first episode. And this is the first area they're going to explore. It's a beach cave, quotation marks, because this is not actually beach cave from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I just found this map. It looks like a cave to me, and there's a river inside, and there's sand. I'll take it, kind of thing. I don't want to make too many maps. I'll explain why in just a moment. So as you can see here, we have a combat setup, which I'll explain in a moment. But I want to show you guys that this is going to be exploration, social, and combat in one section because you're going to see a lot of stuff. Also, you may have noticed I show you my layout for the series. This is the layout, and I'm going to explain the layout in just a quick bit because there's some stuff I want to talk about. But first, let's go over the combat section. Combat in normal D&D revolves around a certain dice, and that is called the D20. I showed you earlier that with checking, combat is also with D20, but in normal D&D, you use that a lot. However, I mentioned earlier that we're going to be using a new system. Actually, this system has been a little bit around, but this one is going to be version 2. So this is system we're about to use in this particular campaign is called Nimble 5e. Nimble 5e, I will explain in a moment, but I will tell you that it is a brand new system that is coming out for version 2 that is now backable on Backer Kit. So if you want to check it out for yourself, I have a video for you, and I will give you the link to Nimble 5e in the description. But basically, before we get into the big stuff, Nimble 5e streamlines your combat to make it faster and more action based, action economy based, which I'll go over when we do some samples in just a quick bit. There's more action economy and there's more player agency along with DM agency with Nimble 5e. And not only is it compatible with our adventure, it's also compatible with 5e adventures normally for D&D. So it makes sense. And it's modular. So you can add and subtract and you can customize it to your liking. That's what I like about this. And my players love it because it's faster unlike D&D. So, let's talk about the actual combat procedure. So, when I say let's roll initiative, in Nimble 5e, you're rolling for how many action points you're actually going to be adding to be used for the first turn. You are guaranteed at least one, and you can roll for the other two. Here's how it works. You roll your d20 like you normally do for initiative, but instead of going first, you're getting action points based on your roll. In this example, Francis de Riolu rolled a 12. A 12 in Nimble means you get 2 action points. You got the first one for free automatically, You get the second one because of the roll of 12. So you start with 2 action points in my particular case. If you rolled a 17 and you add 3 for your dexterity modifier, don't forget to add that. Let's just say 17 plus 3. Instead of 2 action points, you get 3 action points, which is the max at the current time. Because when I said earlier that it's modular. Nimble 5e is modular. You can add, subtract, and change it to your liking. So, with a 20, this player gets 3 action points, but let's just say I added a reward system to this area. Let's just say he leveled up. I add one more action point if that's the reward. So the player can actually have a max of 4. But at level 1 in this particular case, everybody starts with 3. And the max is 3. Okay? Now let's go over the turn order. This is the reason why this is the reason why I say Nimble 5e is modular and faster. And you can see more details in that backer kit link I'm going to give you in the description. But basically speaking, your lineup actually matters. And here's why. There's 2 ways to determine turn order based on Nimble 5e. And why it's faster than D&D. First, let's talk about the D&D procedure. The D&D procedure is you roll d20s until everybody rolls, including the creatures. So let's say Francis the Hedge, Francis the Wolf, Francis the Riolu rolls. 4 plus my dexterity modifier is going to be 6. Okay? I think you know who our other characters are. If you watch my content, it's basically Lone Casey and Toxie. Anyway, I have a 6 because of my dexterity modifier. Kyle rolls. Kyle's gonna roll. He got a 19 plus his dexterity modifier. His dexterity modifier is going to be 1. So that's a dirty 20. But it's going to count for 3 action points because it's 20 or more with dexterity modifier. And then, so 21. So 21, no, 20 is his. I'm at a 6. Then Toxie is going to move. He's going to roll. 6, 20, and 14 plus his dexterity modifier is 1. No, it's minus 1. So 13. So 6, 13, 20. So Kyle would be first initially, then Toxie, and then Francis the Hebriolu. But keep in mind the creatures have to roll 2. So they're going to roll an 11. For this example, I'm going to say their modifiers are 1. So 11 plus 1 is 12. And the 6 plus 1 is 7. So Zubat is going to go last. Then it's going to be, I believe, Gengar. Kyle goes first. And then the Toxie goes second. I go third because, let me see, 4 plus 2 is 6. Oh, you see where the interesting stuff is? Because me and Zubat have 6, we have to do rollies. So we are determining who goes first. 8 versus 15. Zubat is going to take over. Zubat's first, and then me, and then the Gengar is going last. Okay? Because of rollies. Now, I told you that's D&D normal. Now in Nimble 5e, you don't need to worry about numbers, math, all that. Your lineup will determine who goes first. The only thing you're rolling for is how many action points you start with. And that's much easier. How does your lineup matter? There's two ways to determine who goes first in Nimble. And that is who's ready first goes first, and the play around the table goes clockwise, which is what I call the 12 o'clock. If you're at 12 o'clock, you go first. And heroes always go first in Nimble 5e, no matter what, which makes it easier. The only difference is where you're lining up. So let's just say I, as Francis Riolu, would line up here. Kyle, oops, not there. Kyle wants to go just behind me. Toxie is going to go right here. So if we look at this, or if we look at this way, clock going right, going clockwise. The middle, because I'm in front of Kyle, I go first. Then it will be Kyle because he's behind, and then it will be Toxie because of 9 o'clock. Now, what about the enemies? The enemies also do the same thing. Let's take a look at the perspective from the Zubat's point of view. 12 o'clock is going to be straight. So Zubat is going to go first on the enemy side. And then it will be Gengar. With normal D&D, you have to talk to everybody. Hey, what's your role? What's your dexterity modifier? Oh, wait, did you tie? You tied? Rollies? Yeah. This is much easier. And we haven't got into the fun part. Now let's talk about the action economy, as I mentioned earlier. What you're going to notice is you're going to see a few edits called, on the layout, you notice that we have something called AP. That is called action points, and that is going to be very important in a moment. In regular D&D, the only way you can attack is obviously rolling the dice. Talk about, hey, what's your move, this and that. Here's where it gets very, very interesting. With normal D&D, you have to roll a d20 to determine if you hit or not. The question is, do you hit on a 10? Now, at the beginning stage, you might. When this is a beginner stage, then yes, you may be able to hit on a 10. However, that's not up to you to decide as a player. That is up to the dungeon master, in this case myself, to determine if you hit with a 10. I have a number called an armor class in normal D&D, and you have to beat that said number in order to hit. And in this case, if the number was 9, then you do hit on a 10. But if the number was 11, the only way to beat that with an 11, with a 10, is for your strength modifier, which in my case is going to be a plus 2. So 9, the 10 plus 2 is 12. Therefore, I would hit under normal D&D condition. Then I would roll my damage dice. Because I'm using the move tackle, for example, I would go D4. It just turns out that I hit max. But in normal D&D, 4 would be my damage dealt. So I would say something like, hey, a free tackle to 4 damage to the Gengar. And in this particular case, that would be my turn because I use my action. Now, the only time I get a bonus action is if I have a bonus action based on my feat, FEET, FEAT, or my class, which is like your barbarian, warrior, all that nice stuff. That's your class. And if there's bonus traits like racial traits, um, bonuses like that, you have to add that too. there's a lot to keep track of in normal D&D. So only if you have those type of things in normal D&D, you can be able to take 2 or more action. In Nimble, however, it's a little bit different. Nimble utilizes an action point economy. So instead of just one action you're done, it's 3 actions, or in this case, if you level up, you get more. 3 action, and then your turn is over, or you can save it, which I'll explain why you want to save those in a moment. But let's just say, for example, Francis Riolu is going to attack the Gengar with tackle under the Nimble system. I am going to go ahead and roll a d4 because that's my tackle move. I do not need to roll a d20 because under Nimble, as I mentioned, just roll the dead damage dice. And this is what you do. You just roll the damage die, which could be a d4. 2. That's it. I would do 2 damage. Except my turn might not be over yet. Because as I mentioned, I have 2 more action points. I can spend that if I want to. And in this case, I'm gonna go for it. Now, the second roll is going to be my second action point. As a penalty, quotation mark penalty, for going for it on the second hit, I am going to roll with something called disadvantage. You're gonna hear me say that term a lot. What is disadvantage? This is both for both Nimble 5e and D&D. So if you heard this term before, there's like a little review. But basically, you roll 2 of the same dice. With disadvantage, you take the lower number, and with advantage, you take the higher number. So in this case, I'm going to roll with disadvantage, and let's see if I get lucky. Unfortunately, I do not, and the reason why I do not get lucky, as you can see here, I have a 2 there. But with disadvantage, there's also a 1. And in the Nimble system and in D&D, no, excuse me, in the Nimble system, on a 1, you missed. Now, there is one more chance for me to attack again, and that is with my third action point, but this time with stacking disadvantage, meaning it's the same thing as the disadvantage, but you're rolling 3 dice, and the lower number is your number. So let's just see what would have happened. Okay, I would have missed. I would have missed anyway because there's a 1. So I have 2 misses and 1 hit. So in this case, I would hit 1 out of 3. So I deal 2 damage total. And that's my turn. I cannot do anything else anymore because I don't have any more action points. Now, I'm going to pretend that I saved my two action points so I can explain a few more mechanics. So that would be my go. And in this case, Kyle would be next with Toxie on deck. When I say Toxie on deck, that means easy. Kyle is up now. Toxie is next. So he knows when he's going. So Kyle's up. Toxie is preparing. Okay? In normal D&D, you have to wait about 25 minutes for your turn, especially if there's more players. But with Nimble 5e, my turn literally took 1 minute or less. If I don't like explain this stuff when you see it in game. Now, for the sake of this example, I'm gonna say I save my 2 action points. Now, it's Kyle's turn. Now, for this example, I'm gonna keep the HP where they are, where it is. I'm gonna advance combat for a little bit. I'm gonna say Kyle is here. I'm here. Toxie decides to be here. We have defeated the Zubat, by the way, in this example. And we're gonna say that it's gonna be the Gengar's turn. At 9 HP, Kyle is in danger of fainting right now at 9 HP. This Gengar has a move called Shadow Ball. Now, all attacks work the same way in terms of the Nimble system. The only difference is what's the damage die. The damage die on Shadow Ball is D10. Now you might be wondering, you have more of a chance to hit in this case with the D10, and that is correct, except for one factor. Now Kyle has 9 HP. 9 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10, no, 8 out of 10, excuse me, he's going to take less than 9 damage. He's going to stay alive. On the most unlucky case, the 10 is going to be the critical. What happens if you get a critical hit on Nimble? Let's just see what happens. 4, 7. Oh no, that's a 1. There's the 10. Oh wait, I got a 6 there. It just rolled over. There's what I'm looking for. There's the 10. That's what I'm looking for. Now, on a critical hit in Nimble, you keep going. But in normal D&D, in order to get a critical hit, you must roll a 20 on the check. Remember, in Nimble, you don't do that. You go straight to the damage die. If you are playing Nimble, if you hit your max die number, you crit. In this case, the Gengar crits. Now, remember I mentioned that I save my 2 action points. That's huge. Because there is an action called interpose in Nimble 5e. In Nimble 5e, an action called interpose can be activated on not on your turn, when it's not your turn, to protect an ally and save damage from from taking it. You protect your ally. So in this case, I have 2 decisions. Number 1, do I interpose? And number 2, and if I interpose, I move him. Or number 3, I interpose and take his spot. So the first option, I'm going to say I'm going to interpose. Okay, I'm going to interpose. The second thing I have to decide, where do I move him, or do I just swap places? I'm going to move him to my right here, and I'm going to move him down 1, and I'm basically going to take his spot, moving down 1. So I become the next target of the attack automatically, but I have 1 more action point remaining, and I'm going to use my block action to block the damage upcoming. Okay? So, but because it is critical hit, it keeps going. So 10 plus not 6. So on this particular instance, as you can see, on a critical hit play, I interposed for Kyle. So I blocked all that. 16 damage. Now my block's out of there. My interpose is also out for the turn. Also, because I used my action point earlier to tackle, I have no action points my next turn. So I don't recharge. Kyle does. So in this case, I'm out of action points. My turn is basically skipped. But it's not over yet. This turn's not over yet because the Gengar can still go to two more. Was it a good decision to interpose? With disadvantage, that's a 6. Okay, that is a 6 with disadvantage. Okay, so I took 6 damage on that. Now, the unlucky scenario, it's now in the middle. Does the Gengar attack again, or does the Gengar in his turn? If the Gengar attacks again and it gets a 5 plus or a 4 plus in this case with bonus, Francis faints, and I'll explain what happens after. The Gengar decides to go again. This time with 3 dice. stacking disadvantage. Here we go. 10. Okay, I got lucky. 2. I'm saying that that's a good thing, but keep in mind that I'm down to 3 HP. So for this turn, we're good. So I would describe it as I pull Kyle out of the way and I take the attack, and then three shadow balls, and that would be my description. Done. Easy as pie. And that's this turn. What if though he had 4 action points? It's possible because remember later where I'm going to explain the boon system, but I'm going to go ahead and activate his Gengar's action surge. Action surges allow you to add 1 more action point, so he's going to do that. So I can officially explain what happens when Francis faints. In this game, there's a different story in Nimble 5e. I'm going to modify it. So, oh wait, not 3, 4, 4. The lowest number is, well, it won't matter. It's 3. So Gengar attacks Francis 1 more time with Action Surge. This time he knocks him out. It's a 3. That's why 3 minus 3 is 0. It so happens it's 0. So Francis faints for the next turn. Here's what happens. In Nimble 5e, if you're playing regular Nimble, no Pokemon, no Mario, no nothing, what happens is at 0 HP, instead of unconscious and out, it's going to be unconscious and exhaustion points, which you do not want to get. What is going to happen? What's going to happen is on my turn in normal Nimble, I will gain a point of exhaustion. Okay? However, I am not out yet. What happens is it's 6 points of exhaustion before the character dies. So in this particular instance, I still play. But the penalty is 1 action point and 1 action point only. Okay? If I get attacked under the it's called the dying condition, it's 2 points of exhaustion. So that would be making it up to 3. If you fail a save during the exhaustion period, you also take a point of exhaustion. So that's 4. If I get attacked again at 4 exhaustion points, Francis dies. That's the game, basically. That's how Nimble 5e works with the exhaustion system. Okay? Now, that's normal Nimble, but this is a Pokemon campaign. So what I decided to do is make up a rule called the revival check. The revival check is like a death saving throw, except that you don't die at less than 10. What happens is if your roll is higher than a 10, you revive with X amount of HP. Let's do some math here. Now, this only applies if you do not have a reviver seed from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers Sky. If you have a reviver seed, you automatically revive with full HP. If you do not have reviver seed and you're playing this particular game in this rule set, the rule is you roll a d20, and if your roll is higher than 10, you are back in the game. You are revived with HP. How much do you get back? Well, according to my rule set, you get back at least 10, 25%. If you roll higher than 16, that becomes, no, excuse me, higher than 10, 50%. higher than 16 with your Constitution saving throw is 75%. A 20 or higher, a natural 20 or higher, is going to be a 100%. So you're never out of it. Okay? If Kyle feeds me a reviver seed, automatic 100% on his turn, but he has to use an action point. So, whatever you do is going to see how it works. Okay? Now I have to explain one more particular feature that I wanna go over, and that is called the Boon system. I mentioned it earlier that Gengar used an action surge. An action surge allows you to take one more turn in normal D&D. But the Boon system in 5E Nimble is like a reward or power up system. So I decided to take that aspect into play. So everybody has a boon at level 2. I will tell you, there's a little spoiler, one of the characters is level 2. But let's just say that we have our boon. I have a paper here that tells me, hey, reward this boon to this character at that level. Each boon is the cost of AP. So not only do you have to level up, you have to make sure you know your cost of AP, your action point cost. And some of them will go for more than one action point. So you have to be very careful how to strategize your action points. For example, Kyle has a boon at level 1, at level at level 2, excuse me, called Flame Range. Flame Range is a boon that adds 30 feet to your fire-based move in terms of range. So for example, Kyle would be if Kyle was over here for some reason and I'm over here, I have to move out of the way. Kyle here with Ember, because that's a range move, is going to be 35 feet away. Under normal circumstances, Ember only hits for 30 feet. But by using Flame Range and one action point, you can add 30 feet to his Ember, which means with Flame Range, he's going to be able to hit. Not only is he be able to hit, he's going to be able to try to hit anybody in that same line up to 60 feet. Okay, but the cost is once you use your boon, you cannot use it again until you take what is called a long rest. A long rest allows you to restore HP and restore all your spells and stuff. This is like the regular D&D, but with boons instead of spells. Okay, you can kind of call it like a spell if you wish, but they call it a boon. Okay, whatever word we're gonna use. Okay, so that is gonna be how it works. I also decided to add a upgrade system for the boons. It will be 2,000 Poke Dollars to upgrade a boon, which would mean instead of Aura Power 1, it would be called Aura Power 2. The effect would change to where you add plus 4 to Aura base attacks and plus 4 to Aura base attacks and damage, but the action point cost is going to go up, and that's like 2 or something. Okay? So it's going to scale up. Like, for example, another example, Aura of Protection. Aura of Protection is actually an actual D&D move. It is a move. So what it does is, if you are within 10 feet of me, I got this from Critical Role. If you are with 10 feet of me, if you're my team, I'm gonna have to change this number back to 11. If you are within 10 feet of me, and you have to do a roll, a check roll, or a attack roll in this instance, I'm gonna say let's make a dexterity save to see if you get out of the way of Shadow Ball. You can also dodge if you wish for one action point. Let's just say that Kyle rolled for this dexterity saving throw 9. But let's just say that the difficulty class to do this is higher. So normally that would fail. But because he's within 10 feet of me and I decided to use my aura of protection to add plus 4 to his upcoming save or check or attack, that 9 now becomes a 13. And in this particular instance, plus his modifier, he would dodge. Now because it's a shadow ball and he dodges, I have to make my own dexterity saving throw. Now because I already used aura of protection to protect him, I have to make it on without the plus 4. You have to be within 10 feet of me, and you have to be within me to get that plus 4. And it lasts for 2 turns. So I make my save. So we both dodge out of the way. By the way, the Gengar is over here. So we both dodge out of the way. That Shadow Ball goes into nothing. Explode these rocks does nothing. So Aura Protection was used, and then Flame Range is used. So I cannot use those again until we take a long rest. So you have to be very careful with your action economy. That's what you can look forward to as well. And how many boons can you equip? You can equip up to 3 boons, but and you can change them at any time as long as you do it before combat. All right. So I'm going to be making a modeled character sheet just to show you where the boons go, and you can see a lot of custom editing here. All right. Now, what about long and short rest? Long rest, everybody recovers HP up to like an N like that. D6 will be our hit dice, and you can earn one for leveling up. By the way, so keep that in mind. So I'm gonna keep that rule from D&D. So that is what you can expect in terms of like what to watch out for. Now let me explain the layout so that you can see what's going on. So on the layout, you're gonna see our cast, our combat round number, the Steam status. Now I will tell you in advance, I may change this because of the way that when I edit, it's going to look weird because it's so small when editing. So what I decided to do is make player cards, but they're going to appear on the bottom or the top right or top left. Okay, it's going to be like this, and I'm going to present how it's going to look like. Give you a little preview of my editing. So here is what you can expect. So the player card is on the bottom top left. Okay, so here's an example for Kyle. An example for Kyle, as you can see, he has 25 HP right now. He has 2 action points remaining. His max action points is 3. Assuming that he does not do anything else like block, dodge, or interpose, he's going to be recovering all of that AP at the next turn. He is actually leading off the at every round. So right now it's round 1. So I'm going next. So as long as he does not use like an interpose or a block or a dodge, he can go ahead and save those 2 action points and go back to 3 on his next turn. You notice the combat log, the mini combat log. I just tell you what has happened. So for example, I give you some notes as well. Okay, he does crit on the first roll, by the way. So here I tell you that he does 7 points of damage to the Shellos B. Okay? And then I will tell you who else is next. So I would be next in this case with Shellos 1 on deck. Alright? So also I have some custom elements that I'm going to be adding. I cannot show you more than that. Alright? Because I don't want to spoil too much when it comes to my edit. I just want to give you this basic stuff. That's a little bit of a primer of what to look forward to when you're watching our series. If anything changes, I'll let you guys know. But for the most part, that is what you're going to look forward to. Player cards, custom animations, and other stuff for the edit. Until we start, until then, we see you on our first episode, first part, and part 1 and 2. And become a member today to get part 3 early. I am Yuki Productions, the Dungeon Master, also playing as Francis said, the Riolu. And we'll see you when we see you. The question is, are you ready to roll yet? Enjoy.